Let's look at how to create financial statements in Excel. I'm going to illustrate the financial statements on pages 18 and 19 of your textbook. So if you will, please turn to those two pages and we'll get started. Okay, these financial statements are for CSU Corporation. It starts with the income statement, retained earnings, and balance sheet. So let's start with the heading. I'm going to hit my caps lock key and type in CSU Corporation. Hit return and then unlock my caps and type in the heading for the first financial statement, the income statement, and then of course then I want to date it for year ended, and that year ends on December 31st, 2014. So that means they had a fiscal year that started on January 1, and as we know, fiscal years don't have to coincide with the calendar year, but they can. I'm going to come back later and clean up that heading and make it look a little tidier, but for now I'm going to move on. As we know, the income statement reports revenues minus expenses, so let's go ahead and type in that narrative. So revenues will be a heading. This company, as you can see on page 18, only has one kind of revenue, that's service revenue, so let's type that in. And then we're also going to have a heading for expenses. And this particular company has three expenses: rent expense, insurance expense, and supplies expense. And then we want to total those expenses. And then at the very bottom, we're going to show net income. Okay, so you can see here I've got my narrative for the income statement. Now we need to tidy it up. For one thing, column A is not wide enough. So let's learn how to widen a column. Let's go to where the columns are, A and B. You can see where I'm highlighting. And when I move my cursor across, you can see it changes shape. When it gets to where it looks sort of like a crossbow, we're going to click on that, hold your clicker down, or your mouse down, and then we're going to drag it across as wide as we want and then let go. And we can see we can widen the column. Again, put your cursor so it looks like a crossbow, click on it, and just drag. I'm narrowing it there, and now I'm widening it back and let go. The other thing we want to do is we can see in the textbook, service revenue, that heading is indented. So I want to click on that particular cell. There are two icons for indenting. The one to the right, I'm going to click on it. And actually, I'm going to give it 3 clicks because I want it to move over quite a ways. We also want to indent the 3 expenses. So I'm going to click on rent expense, hold your cursor down, drag through all 3 of them. So I've got all 3 highlighted. And I'm going to go up and click on increase indent. I'm going to click it 3 times, 1, 2, 3. And then those perfectly align with service revenue. Once I do that, I can see that I've exceeded my column width. So I'm going to go up, click, drag, move it over again, and make it look much nicer. Total expenses also, according to your textbook illustration, it's also indented. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3. If I leave it there, it aligns with the other expenses, but I want to set it apart. So I'm going to click a couple more times, and so that it visually is appealing. I can notice the actual caption, total expenses. Okay, so now we can see we've got our narrative looking very nice and tidy. Let's move on to numbers. The numbers are going to go in column B and C, and I need to format so my numbers all look the same. So I'm going to click on B in the column B, and I'm going to drag across, hold your cursor down, drag across so that I'm highlighting both B and C. And then I'm going to go over here to this little arrow where it says Format Cells. I'm going to click on that, and a new screen will come up. When it comes up, I want to click on Number. So I want to format all of these, both columns, B and C, for a number. I don't want any decimal places, so I'm going to choose 0 there. Usually for the financial statements, they're in whole numbers, not pennies. I also want to click to use commas. So if there's numbers over 1,000, those are much easier to read. And then lastly, if there are any negative numbers, I actually want those in parentheses. I don't want to use this minus sign. That's harder to actually for the reader to notice, but the parentheses are really obvious. So 0 decimals, comma, and parentheses for negative numbers. Click OK, and now I'm ready to start entering numbers. As we can see, let's start with revenue, that's 17,000. Notice I don't enter in commas. I just put 17,000 in and I hit enter, and Excel will automatically put the comma in. For the expenses, I'm going to move over to column B and enter those, 9,000, 1,000, and 200. And again, notice Excel automatically puts in the numbers. Okay, I want to total those expenses. I want to total these three numbers, and I put it in cell C11 here on my spreadsheet. There are a couple of ways of doing this. If I want to add up numbers, one easy way is just to choose this auto sum. I'm going to click on that. When I do that, Excel guesses what numbers I want to add up. In this particular case, it guessed wrong. Those are not the cells I want to add up. So I'm just going to take my cursor over and my mouse over and just click and hold it down and drag all the way. I want it so you can see it's got a formula here, or I can read it up here. I'm going to sum cell B8 through B10 and hit enter. So that's one way of adding up the expenses. Let me delete that. The other way would just be to equal, and I could do 9,000 plus 1,000 plus 200. So my formula, I'm going to equal, the 9,000, the 1,000, and the 200. If I create my own formulas in Excel, I always have to start with the equal sign. That's how Excel knows that I've got a formula. And I hit return. Okay, last one is net income. Again, this will have to be a formula, so I start with the equal sign. I can just point and click. I want that cell, 17,000. I'm going to hit minus, so enter minus, and then click on 10,200. So I have C6 minus C11, hit enter. Last two things to add are lines and dollar signs. Whenever we add a series of numbers up, just like in elementary school, you always drew a line at the bottom. So we're going to draw a line. There is an icon here for borders. Notice it's titled borders. I want a bottom border. Yours may be down lower. I've been using my bottom border a lot, so Excel automatically put it at the top for me. So I'm going to choose that. Let me move my cursor, and you can see now I'm adding those three numbers, and they're ending up here. Okay, let me click on the 10,200. I also need a line under it. So I'm taking 17,000 minus 10,200. Don't worry that I didn't enter in expenses as a negative. It is common practice to list expenses as a positive number. Business people know accounting or know financial statements and know that the formula for net income is revenue minus expenses. The other thing in terms of lines is the financial statements always end in double borders. So that last net income number, I'm going to choose to put a double border on it. And so I can see it's got two lines. That means we're finished and it's accurate. The second thing as we finish up is to put dollar signs. Common practice is to put a dollar sign on the first number. And you're going to notice every time I do that, I'm going to click on the dollar sign here. Every time I do that, it changes the formatting to pennies. So I'm going to go over here and reduce that. I can increase decimals or decrease decimal points. So always to do that, the first number of each column. So let's go to column B and do the same thing for its first number. So I put dollar signs on the first number of each column. And lastly, I'm going to put a dollar sign for net income. And then I'm finished. So my narrative here looks very nice. Now let's go back up and clean up our heading. We really want our heading to center across all of the income statement. It's going to be column A, B, and C. I can do that by clicking on cell A1. So hold your cursor down, drag it across, and then I'm going to choose this icon, Merge and Center, and it just automatically centers it for me. I'll do the same thing with the income statement, and then the date for year ended. Click on the cell, drag it across, choose Merge and Center. And our income statement's all finished. Nice and easy, wasn't it? Okay, let's move on to the statement of retained earnings. I'm going to start off with, I'm going to be a little lazy and just copy the heading. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to right click, choose copy. I'm going to skip a line, so A14, I'm going to paste it in there. Choose paste. Okay, so and I can get by with this because really the heading for the retained earnings statement is similar to the income statement. The only difference is the name of the financial statement. So I'm going to put my cursor on the income statement. I don't have to delete. I'm just going to start typing, and it automatically deletes the word income statement, and I'm going to replace it with the title retained earnings statement. Notice the date is the same. Both the income statement and retained earnings statement cover a period of time because they're measuring something over time. Okay, let's move on. You look on page 18. We can see the narrative as we start with beginning retained earnings. So beginning retained earnings for this company would be its January 1 balance. We will add profits, add to it, so net income increases it. I'll leave a space for a subtotal, and then we're going to subtract dividends or distributions of earnings. So subtract those out, and we end up with our ending retained earnings. And for this company, that would be the December 31st balance. Okay, we can see that we exceeded our column, so we need to go up and widen column A. So go up, get your crossbow, click, and drag, and we have widened it. Okay, we can see on page 18 they didn't have any beginning retained earnings, so I'm going to put 0 in there. Net income is $6,800. I'm not going to type it. I'm going to set it up so Excel will do the work. So I'm going to create a formula, equals, and then I'm going to click on the net income cell. And then automatically 6,800 pops in there. Again, equals C12. Dividends are given to be 600, so I'm going to type that in. And then ending retained earnings is a formula, isn't it? Oops, let's see. Let's go up and draw a line. Let's do a bottom border. So I want to take 0 and 6,800, and we're going to add that up. Let's shortcut it by doing auto sum. This time, Excel guesses correctly. It's going to add up C18 and through C19, and I hit enter. Or you could have just put equals C18 plus C19. So I have my subtotal, 6,800, and let's do our ending retained earnings. Ending retained earnings equals the 6,800 minus the distribution of earnings, which are dividends. So subtract your dividends. So C20 minus C21, and hit enter. Okay, let's draw our line to show that we took 6,800 minus 600 to get 6,200, and then just like net income, our ending retained earnings will have a double line. We also need to show dollar signs, don't we, at the end? This time I'm going to do it all together. I'm going to click on the first number. I'm going to click on my control key, hold it down, and click on 6,200. So both 0 and 6,200 are highlighted. Don't hit the shift key. The shift key, if you hit the shift key, all of these would be highlighted. So just your control key, highlight 0 and 6,200. Choose dollar sign, and then we need to get rid of those decimal points. So down. Okay, so now we have the income statement and retained earnings statement complete. Let's move on to the balance sheet. Here again, I'm going to copy these headings and paste, just so I don't have to do those all over again. I'm going to change the name of my statement to the balance sheet. And as we know, the balance sheet does not cover a period of time. It's a snapshot at a certain point in time. So I'm going to go up and edit. Really, I just need December 31st, 2014. I prefer to put at December 31st, although your textbook does not do it that way. You're welcome to do either way, at December 31st, 2014, or you can just leave it December 31st, 2014. Either way is accurate. Okay, We want a heading for assets. I'm going to enter that in. Let's go back up and format it. We want that to be in bold. We want to underline it. So it's going to look like that. But I also want it centered across the 3 columns. So again, I'm going to click on cell A28, hold it down, drag it across, choose Merge and Center. Okay, there are 4 assets. Let's type those in. Cash, accounts receivable, supplies, and equipment. And then we're going to total our assets. Okay, let's enter in numbers: 1,400, 1,800, 4,000, and 16,000. Again, it's all formatted, pre-formatted, and the commas are inserted for us. We want to draw a line or place a bottom border under the 16, and we're going to add those up. So let's put our cursor for total assets. Let's choose auto sum, and Excel guesses correctly, and it adds that up. And I want a bottom double border under total assets. There we go. Looks nice. I guess we could, okay, we'll come back and do dollar signs after a bit. Okay, liabilities. I'm going to go ahead and do bold and underscore. Liabilities. Then click, drag it, liabilities and stockholders' equity. Okay, then we'll click, drag it across, merge and center, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we have 2 subheadings now. We'll have liabilities, and there are 2 of those, notes payable, and accounts payable. And I see I misspelled notes payable. Let's go in and edit it. There we go. Okay, and both of those 2 need to be indented, so I'm going to highlight the 2, go up to increase indent, 1, 2, 3. I'll be consistent. Those numbers are 5,000 and 2,000, and I want to add those up, so go, draw my bottom border, total liabilities. To indent that. 1, 2, 3. Let's do 2 more. Okay, we want to add up those 2. I'm going to choose auto sum. It guesses incorrectly. I'm going to click and drag, tell it I want B7 through B38, or I could have just typed in equals B37 plus B38. That would have worked just fine as well. Okay, last heading, stockholders' equity. 2 accounts are common stock and retained earnings. I want to indent both of those, so I highlight both of them. Go to increase indent. Click 3 times. Common stock is $10,000. Retained earnings is actually, it's this number up here, isn't it? The 6,200. So I'm not going to type the 6,200. I'll enter a formula. So equals, and I can just click on cell C22, hit return, and 6,200 pops up. Okay, let's draw a line, and then we'll have total stockholders' equity. Let's indent that, and I could do auto sum. Let's just do a formula. Equals 10,000 plus 6,200. Hit return. A little. Alright. So now let's add up total liabilities and stockholders' equity. Okay, we exceeded column A, didn't we? Let's go up, widen it again, get our crossbow, click and drag. Okay, let's do a formula. Equals, or you can do sum, auto sum's fine too, equals this cell plus that cell. I need to put a line under that. So it shows 7,000 plus 16,200, And let's double underscore the 23.2. Okay, so we've got total assets equals total liabilities and stockholders' equity. Feeling good, aren't we? Everything balances out. Okay, let's go put our dollar signs in. Remember, it's the first number in each column, and then at the end we'll do total assets, and we'll also do total liabilities and stockholders' equity. Hit your control key and hold it down this whole time. So I'm hitting my control key now. I'm also going to click on total assets. I'm going to click on notes payable. Total liabilities, that's the first number starting this section of the balance sheet, and then total liabilities and stockholders' equity. So I have this first number and the ending. I have this first number in that column, that first number in this secondary part of the column, and then the ending. Okay, let's go choose dollar sign. Get rid of the decimals, and we're done. So now we have our balance sheet is complete. It's in balance, looks all nice and neat. And we have our income statement. And you know, the nice thing, let's just play with it. What if service revenue went up to 18,000? Boom, look at the change in net income. Look how that filtered right into our retained earnings statement. And I get a different number with retained earnings and ending retained earnings. Now it's 7,200, not 6,800. And then notice how that automatically went into the balance sheet and moved forward. So the nice thing with Excel is that I can do a lot of what ifs. What if what if this number changed, and etc. Let me change this back to 17,000. Don't forget, you want to go, save your document, do your save as and go through all of that. I'm going to skip that for now. I'll save mine in a minute. So don't forget to save. Okay, good luck, and this is the end of this.